Hey there and welcome. Before we dive into today's dialogue, grab a notebook or open your notes app. We're about to unpack some powerful insights you won't want to miss. Ready? Let's get into it.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a question I think many of us have probably thought about. Why sometimes, despite praying really intensely, we just don't see the answers we're hoping for.
That's such a common thing, isn't it? It can be really confusing.
Yeah.
And we've got some, fascinating source material here today. It's excerpts from a book called How to Get Your Prayers Answered by Norvell Hayes,
Yeah.
published by Harrison House.
Okay.
And it promises to sort of reveal some key truths and maybe simpler ways based on the Bible to connect with God and receive things.
Exactly. So instead of just wondering, this material suggests that how we actually pray might be the missing piece.
Right.
So our mission today is really to unpack these pages you've brought and see what insights jump out.
And maybe find some clarity on those times when prayer felt a bit like, hitting a wall.
Right. Okay, first, let's get a little context on the source. Norvell Hayes, the author, he's described as both a successful businessman and an internationally known Bible teacher.
Yeah, quite a blend. His background, according to the bio, includes founding quite a few Christian ministries, things like New Life Bible College, but also practical outreach like soup kitchens, maternity homes, even children's home in India.
So a pretty wide scope of ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And the publisher, Harrison House, what's their angle?
Well, their stated vision seems to be about proclaiming gospel truth and power and really challenging Christians to live victoriously, grow spiritually, know God more intimately.
Okay, so that definitely frames the book's perspective. Practical faith, tangible results.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Which leads us right into the core issue the book tackles.
Yeah.
Unanswered prayer.
Yeah. And the author apparently comes at it from personal experience, too. He's quoted saying things like, I don't understand you, Jesus. Why don't you answer my prayer? I've got to have this, but it's not coming to pass.
That vulnerability is relatable, for
Yeah.
sure. And the basic idea this source puts forward is that the reason might not be God being unwilling, but something about how the prayer is actually offered.
So it's not just about needing something from God.
But understanding the path to God. The material suggests God has actually given different ways to approach him and receive things. It points out something interesting, that a lot of people only really truly seek God when their world is crumbling.
The crisis moment.
Yeah. And while that can definitely be a turning point, the author notes that God would much prefer us to come to him proactively, before a crisis sort of forces our hand.
Like wanting a consistent relationship, not just using the emergency phone.
Exactly. And the material highlights a verse from Hebrews 11.6 that feels really central to this whole proactive idea.
Hebrews 11.6, remind me.
It says you must diligently seek him to find the goodies from heaven, as the source puts it.
Diligently.
Yeah, and the source is pretty blunt here. It says you can't just seek God a little bit and expect big answers. There's a real requirement for diligence.
And it's not just the effort level, is it? It's also about your attitude, your posture.
Right. The material stresses approaching God with an open heart, being ready, actually ready, to receive whatever he has for you.
So diligence in seeking and an internal readiness, a receptiveness.
That seems to be the combination.
Okay, now the source goes deeper than just, the act of seeking. It puts a huge emphasis on the heart behind the prayer, and even the specific words you use when you talk to God.
Yes, it makes a strong point that Jesus looks at the motives of the heart. The book contrasts this with, it says the devil brings up past sins, but Jesus doesn't focus on those.
That's a really powerful distinction.
It is. And the material directly connects the heart to our speech. It quotes Matthew 12.34. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh.
Okay, so your words are like a window.
A direct window into your heart's true condition, yeah.
Yeah.
And the source makes a pretty bold claim that Jesus sometimes actually doesn't like the way people pray.
Doesn't like it. Wow.
Yeah. It says just being humble or even crying isn't necessarily enough if the way you're praying, the heart condition your words are showing is, wrong.
Wrong how, though? Does it explain what wrong means in this context?
It ties it back to the heart's condition and what comes out of it. It immediately uses Jesus' teaching in Matthew 15 as the prime example.
Ah, Matthew 15, where
Yeah.
Jesus talks about what defiles a person.
Exactly. And the interpretation given here is that it's not what goes into your mouth, like food, that defiles you, but what comes out of your mouth, because that comes from the heart.
Okay, so the source of defilement is internal, and it comes out in our speech.
Precisely. The source basically challenges you, the listener, to examine your own heart's condition. And specifically, how have you been talking? Have you been speaking faith or speaking doubt? Is your talk maybe hindering love?
Hmm.
Because the text argues that what comes from the heart, evil thoughts and the like, that's what defiles. And ultimately, what comes out of your mouth can cause trouble and actually discourage you from receiving from God.
So our words, because they come from our heart, are presented here as a potential major roadblock to answered prayer.
That's the connection it makes, yeah.
Yeah.
Very direct.
And to really hammer this home, the source brings up a really compelling case study from that same chapter, Matthew 15, the story of the Canaanite woman. Her daughter was, well, suffering terribly.
Yes, this is used as a key example of how changing your approach in prayer can completely change the outcome.
Okay, let's break it down. Her first approach, Matthew 15, verses 22-23. She cries out, "Have mercy on me, O Lord! My daughter is grievously vexed with a devil." And Jesus' response.
Silence. Answers are not a word.
And the source gives a specific reason for that silence.
It does. It suggests her motives in that first cry were, well, wrong. It argues her focus was on her own torment. Have mercy on me, see? Even though the problem was her daughter.
Right.
And, crucially, the source says there was no worship in that initial plea.
Wait, so asking for mercy for your own suffering, even if it's tied to someone else's pain, the source calls that potentially selfish if it doesn't include worship? That feels tough.
It's definitely a challenging interpretation offered in the text. It emphasizes the focus of the plea. But then, look at her second approach. Verse 25 says, "Then came she and worshipped him."
Ah, the shift.
Yes. The source elaborates, suggesting she essentially said, "I worship you, Jesus. I love you." Then she followed with, "Lord, help me."
Worship first, then the request.
Exactly. She approached him not just as a problem solver, but she worshipped him as her God. And the source says, this pleased God. He found favor in this approach.
Okay.
It's after this worship that Jesus gives that famous and often difficult response about not taking the children's bread for the dogs. The book calls it a test.
Which is a pretty intense thing to hear. But her
Well,
answer
her
back,
aspects.
verse 27, it's amazing. "Truth, Lord. Yet the dogs eat of the crumbs which fall from their master's table."
Incredible response. And the source sees this as showing profound, humble faith. She's acknowledging him as master, willing to take anything, even just crumbs, recognizing his authority and goodness.
And the result, immediate. Verse 28, Jesus says, "O woman, great is thy faith. Be it unto thee even as thou wilt." Daughter healed instantly.
So the key takeaway, according to this material, is that the change in her approach, moving from what it called a potentially self-focused plea to one centered on worship and faith, that's what pleased God and unlocked the answer.
So worship isn't just, a Sunday morning thing. It's presented here as a vital posture, a priority in your personal prayer life.
Absolutely. And the source takes this even further. It emphasizes prioritizing personal worship, sometimes even over other, seemingly good religious activities.
What do you mean? Like over church work?
It talks about intentionally shutting yourself off sometimes from witnessing, teaching, other church stuff, specifically to spend time alone with God.
Yeah.
In the prayer closet, it calls it.
That's a really challenging thought, that being busy for God isn't the same as or a substitute for just being with God.
Precisely. The material suggests that if you let ministry activity replace that personal, solitary worship time, it can actually grieve God's heart and potentially hinder blessings.
Wow. It highlights that big command, love God with all your heart, soul, strength, mind,
Yeah.
from Luke 10.27. And then there's that message the author says he received from God.
Yes, it's quite striking. God apparently told him, "People make me complicated. All I want them to do is let me love them."
Let me love them. That really shifts the dynamic, doesn't it? From what you need to do for God to simply receiving from him.
Yeah. The source says that spending time just allowing God to love you lets his love flow through you. It brings understanding, patience. It's described as more than just a general idea of love. He wants to, quote, boldly show you how much he loves you, melt your heart, give you compassion.
So if prayer feels stuck, one suggestion from this source is to actually pause the asking for a bit and shift the focus. Spend time just letting Jesus love you, worshiping him, telling him how you feel about him, not just listing your problems.
Cultivating that intimacy seems absolutely primary in this framework, building that foundation first.
Okay, so building on that foundation, right heart, right words, worship, intimacy, the material then introduces another really crucial principle for receiving: unwavering faith.
This is a big one. The author shares a personal story about his daughter. God apparently revealed to him that her freedom from whatever situation she was in depended on his faith, the parent's faith, because he held spiritual authority there.
Wow, that puts a lot of weight on parental faith from this perspective.
It really does. And the core point it makes is stark. Unwavering faith is what brings God's power into play. But wavering faith, according to this material, actively cuts off God's power from working for the person or situation you're praying for.
Cuts it off. That's strong language.
Very strong. It connects right back to Hebrews 11:6 again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Impossible to please God without faith. And the source links knowing God intimately through spending that personal time with him we just talked about as essential for building this kind of solid, unwavering faith. It suggests that standing strong in faith, especially as a parent, can act like a shield against the devil and help bring children back to God.
Okay, so we've got the heart, the words, worship, intimacy, unwavering faith. The next principle the material gets into is summed up as confession brings possession.
Right. And this is illustrated with a really powerful story. A woman whose 17-year-old daughter was missing. She'd been praying intensely, apparently, but nothing was happening.
So the author steps in with specific instructions based on verses like Mark 11.23 and James 4.
Exactly. He told her that her faith had the power to bring the daughter back, and that she could literally speak her daughter back into her life. Use her words.
And the instruction wasn't just general prayer, was it? It was very specific.
Incredibly specific and repetitive. She was told to make a daily, unwavering confession. The only words she was supposed to say were, "Thank you, Jesus, for showing me where my daughter is. Thank you, Jesus, for having her contact me," period.
Saying thank you before it happened, speaking it as if it were already done.
That's the principle. And the source describes how doubt kept attacking her thoughts, that the daughter was hurt, or worse.
But she resisted, stuck to the instruction.
She held on to that instruction, kept making only that confession, and the result. The daughter called her, she was under conviction, came home, gave her life to the Lord, got baptized.
Wow.
The source presents it as this undeniable proof of the confession brings possession principle. That consistently speaking, your faith, aligned with God's will, can actually manifest what you're believing for.
Which really brings us full circle, doesn't it? Back to the core emphasis in this material, the call to be a true worshiper.
Yes, reaffirming that worship isn't just, a nice extra. It's presented as key to getting prayers answered. The source quotes Jesus from John 4. The Father seeks true worshipers in spirit and truth.
And it ends with a direct challenge, really, to you listening. If your prayers seem unanswered, maybe check the time you're actually spending in simple worship and praise.
The encouragement from the source is clear. Intentionally prioritize that time. Make God number one through worship. And the promise given, according to this material, is that if you do that, you will see your prayers answered.
So we've taken quite a deep dive into these insights from Norval Hayes' material. We've explored this framework where answered prayer isn't just about the need, but hinges on the how your heart's condition, your words, prioritizing personal worship, having unwavering faith, and actually speaking that faith out loud.
Yeah, and the stories like the Canaanite woman changing her approach or the missing daughter being spoken back home, they provide really vivid examples of these principles in action, at least from this source's viewpoint.
It definitely presents a path focused less on just getting stuff from God and more on building that relationship with God, letting Him love you, and approaching Him in ways that this material says please Him, mainly through worship and a steadfast spoken faith.
It's certainly a distinct perspective, a specific set of principles laid out here.
It is. And here's something maybe to chew on as you think about all this. If unwavering faith, as presented here, really is essential for God's power to move in certain situations, well, what areas in your life might be waiting for you to deepen your faith, maybe change your words and shift how you're speaking about them?
We hope today's dialogue sparked something valuable for you. If it did, don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, and share. Let's spread the insight so others can grow with us too. Until next time, keep diving deep.